Mr. Speaker, members, I guess I would like to first address Representatives Leidiger and Gruenhagen. Those two representatives, I understand, joined with a group of senators to challenge the court funding that took place during this government shutdown. And I think you're both probably well aware of Article 11, Section 1 of the state constitution. It says no money shall be paid out of the treasury of this state except in pursuance of an appropriation by law. You stood on principle. You stood by the Minnesota Constitution. You said that even when times are tough, we can't avoid our constitutional duties. If you look a little further, Representatives Leidiger and Gruenhagen, down Article 11, you get to Section 6. It's entitled Certificates of Indebtedness. Think about that just for a second. Think about that word, indebtedness. It says that as authorized by law, certificates of indebtedness may be issued during a biennium, commencing on July 1 and ending on June 30th in the next odd-numbered year. That's the provision that says we can borrow money within a biennium, but we can't borrow money between biennia. We can't carry over debt. We can't carry over indebtedness between biennia. Now, there's another provision that allows us to bond for capital investment projects. That's a separate section of the Constitution. But the reason the Attorney General says that appropriation bonds might not be constitutional is because of this Section 6 of Article 11. Now, nobody, of course, is perfectly consistent at the legislature. No political party is perfectly consistent. You might have certain articles of the Constitution that you like, such as the legislature has the appropriation power, and you might have certain sections of the Constitution you don't like, such as that we are not allowed to carry indebtedness over biennia. But you're still obligated to hold up both sections of the Constitution. So, members, we often talk about passing a budget, and while you are going to pass a budget, and while Governor Dayton is expected to sign this budget into law, you are not passing a balanced budget. And I'm not talking in the moral sense, because certainly your budget is morally bankrupt, if any budget ever has been. But I'm talking about balanced budget in the strict financial sense. You are carrying over $700 million of indebtedness from this biennium and into the next one. It's not balanced. This is the first budget in Minnesota's history that won't be balanced. Congratulations. Congratulations. This budget is not balanced. You're the first class, the first majority to leave Minnesota worse off in debt than when you found it. So, members, we've got the budget. You know, I think we probably could all reach into our pocket and pull out a credit card, take the credit card and stick it on top of the budget and say, look, there we go. We did it. Congratulate us. We did a great job. We didn't raise taxes. We just put the budget on the credit card. Congratulations. Now, I don't know if you bothered to check, but the credit card you're using, it doesn't have any points. There's no airline miles. There's no rewards. You're not going to get a free trip anywhere. Nothing good is going to come from this. If you're going to go out and get a credit card, you could have at least gone to maybe Capital One and get something that was interest-free for a year. But you've got nothing. The interest rate is not known. Would you sign up for a credit card when you don't even know the interest you're going to be paying? Representative Davids, you don't know what kind of bonds you're going to be issuing, that MMB is going to be issuing. You're authorizing them to do whatever works. Not what is in the best interest of Minnesota, not what's the best interest rate, not what's going to save our skin financially down the road. It's whatever you can sell. Go out to the market and sell whatever you can. That's the Republican budget that Governor Dayton is going to sign into law. And how are we going to pay for it, members? What are we going to do? You've got $2 billion in tails. You've got a $2 billion deficit next time. You've got, and Representative Greiling will go through this, you've got $3.2 billion that the state is going to owe the school kids of Minnesota, $4,000 per kid in school. That's what we're left behind. And how are we going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it by failing to address the real challenges this state faces. And this is not, I don't think anyone could disagree. We have an aging population. We have demographic pressures on our human services programs, on nursing homes and hospitals. We have an achievement gap in our education system. that means that we're graduating a lot fewer people ready to work, ready to go to be successful in this economy. Minnesota's economic advantage is in our workforce, and the achievement gap that we are facing right now is undermining our strategic advantage in the workforce. We have declining research and development in this state. The innovation that drove taconite, the innovation that drove Scotch tape is being undermined in Minnesota right now. Now, it's not all going to come from state government, but some of it is in the form of declining research at the University of Minnesota. And there are even issues, and we have to deal with them. I think we would agree that those are some of the three of the biggest issues we face. We have slightly different ways of dealing with them. But even on something where there's bipartisan agreement, where I agree with you, I think the corporate tax rate in Minnesota is too high. We should simplify and reduce corporate taxes in Minnesota. But the fact is, we're not going to be able to do any of those things. If you have a great idea that involves any kind of money, if you want to reduce taxes, you're not going to be able to afford to do it because of this budget. If you want to increase funding for charter schools down the road because you think they're more innovative, or you want to create a voucher system, there's no money to do it. None of the things that you care about that cost a dime will have any money attached to them for the next 10 years because we are going to be paying for this budget. Representative Abler, there are good ideas out there in health and human services. Some of them are going to cost money. You can't just do it all by cutting. But there's going to be no money whatsoever for implementing reform. None, members. We're going to be paying for this for the next 10 years. So how are we going to be paying this credit card bill? We're going to be paying this credit card bill in lost opportunity. We've got big challenges, and Minnesota is not going to be able to address them for the next 10 years because of this budget. Representative Dabney referred back to the kitchen table analogy. My analogy is much simpler. Mom and Dad sit around the kitchen table and they're arguing. They're screaming at each other. They can't decide if we should just cut spending or if we should cut spending and go out and get a second job. But since Mom and Dad can't agree, guess what they do? They smash the piggy bank and they take the money and put off any hard decision for another day. And I think we would all agree, members, that they're not being adults. It's not very adult to leave your kids with debt because you can't come to an agreement with somebody that has a different point of view than you do. Not one of you can manage your household that way and not get divorced. So when we go back and look at some of these campaign pledges, Representative Murray, you're gone. Over and over and over is that the government is trying to do too much and is spending too much. Spending is totally out of control. Our state is growing by leaps and bounds, but our personal budgets aren't growing. Guess what, Representative Murray? I've seen those cute grandkids of yours. They're going to be paying for your vote tonight. Representative Kriesel, the South Washington County Bulletin is saying that you preach fiscal conservatism. I follow you on Twitter, and you talk about your kids playing Little League quite a bit. Did you tell them that they're going to be paying for the debt based on your vote tonight? Members, we can go on down the list. Anybody with kids or grandkids who's voting yes tonight is voting yes to leave their kids and grandkids with a pile of debt. Members, it's not very adult to do that just because you can't agree. So, I guess to the people of Minnesota, it's about time you started sending more adults to the legislature. People can do what's hard, even though it isn't easy. And to those of you who ran because you needed to control spending in St. Paul, state government is out of control, we need to limit government, we've got to end business as usual. You came down here to do that, and with this budget tonight, folks, congratulations. You're no longer those people, you're all just politicians.